Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the May National Farm to School Network topical webinar. We'll give everyone just a moment to jump on the line and we'll get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the May National Farm to School Network topical webinar, National Agriculture in the Classroom and Farm to School. My name is Lacey Stevens, and I'm a program manager with the National Farm to School Network, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's session. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping reminders for you. This webinar will be recorded and archived for future viewing in the National Farm to School Network resource database. You'll also receive a link to access the recording along with any additional resources or reports shared by our speakers today in a follow-up email. So keep an eye out for that. All attendees are in listen-only mode right now. So as you do have questions, please feel free to enter those in your question box in the control panel. We'll have plenty of time for question and answers with our panelists at the end of the session. So before we get started, I'd like to invite you to our upcoming webinars. We have several that we host on a monthly basis. So coming up at the end of the month, we have our May Farm to School Resource Roundup that'll feature resources for implementing state farm to school strategies. That's Wednesday, May 29th. In June, we have our next NFSN Trending Topics webinar focused on child nutrition reauthorization and federal policy advocacy. So mark your calendars for Thursday, June 6th. And you'll receive in that follow-up email a link to register for all of these webinars. So we're very excited to be able to share today's webinar with you. We have some fantastic guest speakers, and we believe this partnership between National Agriculture in the Classroom organizations and National Farm to School Network provides a lot of opportunities to parallel and advance both of our organizations' work and our goals around supporting children and educators in understanding agriculture and farm to school. I'm going to get us started today with background on Farm to School and the National Farm to School Network and why this alignment with agriculture in the classroom is such a natural fit. Then we'll hear from Lisa Gescala about the National Agriculture in the Classroom organization. And then finally we'll hear about Maine Ag in the Classroom from Renee Page of Healthy Communities of the Capital Area, who's also our National Farm to School Network Maine Core Partner. To set the stage for our conversation today, I'd like to start with a little about the what of Farm to School. So when we say Farm to School, we're talking about activities that support the connection that communities have with fresh, healthy food and local food producers, and ways to engage children in learning about food, agriculture, and nutrition. So while we don't have one defined program of Farm to School, we have this collection of Farm to School activities that empower children and their families to make informed food choices while strengthening the local economy and contributing to vibrant communities. So while there isn't one distinct defined program, these elements of gardening, of local food procurement, and food, nutrition, and agriculture education really combine for success in Farm to School. So as you can see, that educational component offered by agriculture in the classroom is a really vital piece of this comprehensive, impactful Farm to School work. For those of you joining us for the first time, the National Farm to School Network is an information, advocacy, and networking hub for communities working to bring local food sourcing, school gardens, and food and agriculture education into schools and early care and education settings. As you can see, we're built on this network model, including our National Staff and Advisory Board, over 200 core and supporting partner organizations in every state, DC, and several of the territories, and more than 20,000 network members. So this network structure really creates perfect opportunity for collaboration and coordination with national and state level agriculture in the classroom. We see these blossoming partnerships in alignment with these partners popping up all over the country. In Oklahoma, for instance, our National Farm to School Core Partner is also the Oklahoma Ag in the Classroom Coordinator. In Alabama, as another example, the Ag in the Classroom Coordinator is supporting relationships with farmers for a new Farm to Early Care and Education initiative in the state. So to further expand on and demonstrate these partnerships, I'd like to introduce our webinar speakers. First, we'll hear from Lisa Gascala. She is the Executive Director of National Agriculture in the Classroom organization, a national nonprofit that we'll hear more about today that represents agriculture in the classroom programs in most of the 50 states and District of Columbia. She has served as National Agriculture in the Classroom organization's Executive Director since 2017. Prior to that, she worked as Executive Director of Florida Agriculture in the Classroom, Executive Director of Polk County Farm Bureau, and Public Relations Manager of Florida Citrus Mutual. Next, we'll hear from Renee Page, who is the Maine Core Partner for National Farm to School Network. She's the Assistant Director at Healthy Communities of the Capital Area, a public health nonprofit organization in Gardner, Maine, where she oversees local food systems and healthy eating projects. Healthy Communities of the Capital Area is the fiscal and staffing home to the Maine Farm to School Network and Maine Farm to Institution. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Lisa. Lisa, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Lacey, for organizing this forum today, connecting National Farm to School Network with National Agriculture in the Classroom and its state partners in most of the 50 states and the District of Columbia, as you said. So go ahead and move the slide. Go ahead. As Lacey said, we are a nonprofit organization. We are supported by USDA NIFA grant, sponsorships from agribusinesses and organizations from around the country, and membership dues. I've already said we represent agriculture in the classroom programs in most of the 50 states and the District of Columbia. We reached 7.3 million students and 118,000 teachers in kindergarten through 12th grade in 2017. And our mission is to increase agricultural literacy through K-12 education. So back to what Lacey said about education being a priority area for Farm to School, we're an ideal partner for Farm to School at the national and state level in that effort. And we define an agriculturally literate person as one who understands and can communicate the source and value of agriculture as it affects our quality of life. Next slide. As I said, this says the link, and in my presentation I have live links, so Lacey will be sharing this presentation afterwards. So if you go to the URL on the screen at the top of this page, it will take you to this page on our website, a map of the United States that has all the state programs that are active in our organization, and you just click on the state and it'll take you right to their website. So I invite any of the Farm to School folks who are participating in this webinar and who listen to the recording later to check out who your agriculture in the classroom organization is in your state by going to this page. As Lacey said, it's a great resource and partnership for you at the state level, and we're going to highlight a couple of those partnerships during this meeting. So next slide. Florida and Maine are the two Ag in the Classroom programs that have active partnerships with Farm to School, so we're going to feature those today. Next slide. So why teach health and nutrition? Many of you, because education is your priority area, to teach health and nutrition, why is that important? Well, all states have health and nutrition standards for elementary and secondary levels. So if you are trying to get into the classroom in your schools or in front of students in the cafeteria, just know that all the states have health and nutrition standards for K-12. So that's a great statement to make when you're trying to get face time with these students. The elementary curricula has national and state standards for health and nutrition, which is basically exercise and wash your hands. Elementary cafeteria workers are often tasked with conducting educational presentations about nutrition. We also have activities that would help in that effort. Middle school health courses require a 0.5 credit and have standards for nutrition that teach basically digestion and nutrition as part of an integrated science approach. And then, of course, our family and consumer science food classes in the 7th through 12th grade have nutrition standards. So this is automatically a great way for you to approach folks in your schools to get in front of students. And they're all looking for resources. And that's where National Agriculture and the state Ag in the Classroom programs come in. Next. On the website of National Agriculture in the Classroom, on the homepage, we have the National Agricultural Literacy Curriculum Matrix. It is a database of hundreds of kindergarten through 12th grade lesson plans and what we call companion resources or activities that you can do with students. The curriculum matrix lessons are correlated to national health and nutrition standards, which you can search for on this database. You can search by keyword, grade level, subject area, and even by education standards. If you just do a search for health and nutrition standards on the matrix, 86 kindergarten through 12th grade lesson plans will pop up. They are free of charge, and the keywords you can use are MyPlate, food safety, nutrition, or farm to fork, and put down whatever grade level you need and search for it, and it'll pop up within seconds. You can also create, as you can see on the screen on the matrix template there, my binder. You can create your own binder where you find resources that you want to save. That's what you would use that for, so you can go back and find them quickly if you need to in the future. But just a really quick way for you to locate a lesson or activity you may need to go before a classroom or even at teacher workshops. So next. So I'm going to give you some examples of lessons that you can pull up, and I basically each of the next 4 templates are organized this way, the next 4 slides. This is the kindergarten through 2nd grade lesson, Eating Plants. I've got a live link to it from this slide that you can use later. The purpose of the lesson is students will identify the structure and function of 6 plant parts and classify fruits and vegetables according to which parts of the plants are edible. So the education content standards on the left that you can see, that's the health standard it meets, and then those are the science standards that it meets. So you can go, make your argument to the classroom teacher that this would be a good science exercise for students too. And this is just one of the activities. It's called a plant drama, where you're going to have the students act out each part of the plant. So some students will be the roots, where they sit on the ground and pretend to anchor themselves in place to represent roots holding a plant in place. They'll make sucking noises to represent the water and nutrients being absorbed through the soil. Stems will stand up straight to represent a stem supporting leaves, flowers, and fruit. They will move their arms up over their body from their feet to their head, which represents water, nutrients, and sugars moving through the stem. The leaves, the students who are leaves will hold hands high in the air to represent leaves, receiving energy from the sun to make food for the plant. The flower students will make fancy poses to represent a flower attracting pollinators. And then the fruit student will pretend to hold a baby to represent the fruit protecting the seeds. And then the seeds students will roll into a ball on the ground and then slowly begin to stand to represent a seed sprouting and growing into a new plant. So that's just a fun exercise that you can do with them. And then to the right, you can see a couple other activities that go with this lesson. The one on the bottom is they actually create a plant using fruits and vegetables that are actually that part of the plant for representing the seeds, the roots, the stem, the leaf, and the flower. So another good way to illustrate to students what the different parts of the plant are, which in kindergarten through 2nd grade is what you're trying to teach at this point. Next slide. Third through 5th grade, Who Grew My Soup? Great book that teaches kids where their food comes from, which is the farm. So on the left, you can see the purpose of this lesson is students will identify the source of the food they eat and investigate the processes and people involved in getting food from the farm to their plate. Below that, the education content standards within economics, within health. From a health standpoint, students will demonstrate the ability to practice health-enhancing behaviors and avoid or reduce health risks. And then the activity, or one of the activities from the lesson, is called Food Farm Connection. They're going to read the book, Who Grew My Soup, then ask students to list the ingredients that are in thin soup, which are listed here, the carrots, tomatoes, and other vegetables. Then they're going to cut out and assemble this fact wheel. And the template for all of these activities are in these lessons. There's links to them, so you don't have to go anywhere. Everything's contained in the lesson. But they're going to cut and assemble this fact wheel. You can either have the students do it individually or as a class. Then you'll divide them into 10 groups and assign each group a food from the list. And then they're going to have enough time to match their food with the picture and information on the fact wheel. And the information basically details what part of the plant each of these vegetables are, what purpose they serve to the plant, and then the health and nutrition, the nutritional facts about the vegetable that it provides to humans. So next slide. For middle school, this is 6th through 8th grade. This lesson is called Understanding MyPlate. On the left-hand side, you see the purpose is that students will explore appropriate serving size and learn how to make good dietary decisions by understanding the components of nutrition as illustrated by MyPlate. And then you see the education content standards there to the left, and those are the health standards listed there. So they're going to learn about concepts related to health promotion and disease prevention and decision-making skills and such. So the engagement activity, and by that at the beginning of each lesson, we have an interest approach or engagement activity. We'll have you basically prepare a basket with as many of the following items you can find: apples, peanuts, corns. You can see the whole list there of both fruits, vegetables, and proteins and starch. And you can even ask and we say these things to teachers, if they can't afford to buy these things in their classroom, ask parents or volunteers to donate them or use a food models kit or even just pictures from a magazine, because we like to make our activities as affordable for teachers as possible. And then call on students to choose an item from the basket and ask them why they chose that item. And then ask students the following questions to help them connect the food they eat every day to the farms that produce it. First question being, do you like to eat this type of vegetable, fruit, or meat? Where can you purchase these items? How do these items get to the grocery store? How are these foods grown? Who grows these foods? And what would you eat if farmers didn't grow these foods? So basically driving home the fact that we need farmers to produce the food that we eat every day. But as if you drill down into the lesson even more, they learn about, portion size and then how much of each of these items, the fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, and dairy that they need to eat to have a balanced, healthy diet. Next slide. For high school, the 9th through 12th grade level, we chose fruit and vegetables, the right pick for vitamins and minerals. So we're going to, since these are older students, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the vitamins and minerals aspect and how they benefit our bodies. So in this lesson, students will describe the farm-to-table process of common fruits and vegetables. They will recognize the nutrients and that nutrients and vegetables provide and evaluate methods of food storage and preparation for preserving nutrients. And as you can see, there are the health standards that go with this lesson. So they're going to be able to access valid information, products, and services to enhance health. They'll demonstrate the ability to use decision-making skills to enhance health, much like the lesson before, and so on. So the activity we chose for this is called Nutrients Provided by Fruits and Vegetables. So what you would do is divide the class, and you can do this with adults too. It doesn't have to be students, but divide them into 2 groups and set the classroom up so that you basically have 2 rows of chairs facing each other. And then establish a clear route so students can move so that they will pair with each classroom. Then you're going to give one line of students in one row a complete set of the vitamins and minerals facts cards, and the same with the second row of students. Then each one's going to get one of those cards, and there's basically a vitamin and a mineral on each card that details what each of those do for the body, and give them time to look at their vitamin or mineral and become experts in it. And then you do something similar to speed dating game, where you give students 3 to 4 minutes at each station to share with one another the information from the card and record it in a handout that you see on the right. They will each have that vitamins, why are they important handout, and they will learn as they go, have to report as they go, what vitamin or mineral that the other student has and where in the body it benefits humans and good health and nutrition. So with the older students, you want to get them up and moving around, and this is a good way. They like to interact with each other, so this is a fun way to get them up and out of their seats and engaged in learning about vitamins and minerals that are provided by fruits and vegetables. So that is why we selected this lesson. Next slide. Cafeteria educators, more and more, they're being called on to provide some nutrition education to students, and we thought this was a perfect fit for them. It's called Farming in a Glove. It basically uses that clear kitchen glove that your kitchen cafeteria workers have to use every day, so they already have it on hand. And basically, it's a way for students to observe how a seed sprouts and investigate the conditions necessary for germination to occur. So in this case, you can have the students either create their own, or which is a lot of fun, but basically you would give each student a glove. They would write their name on the top of it, or if they're younger, you might have to do it for them, and you'd need help with that. So I recommend having several volunteers on hand. And then in this case, we had radish and peas written on the fingers of the glove. But you can do garden in a glove, so that on each finger you have different components of a salad. So one finger would be lettuce seeds, one would be tomato, one would be cucumber, whatever goes into a salad that you would like to offer. And then they would just dampen the cotton ball, moisten it, and squeeze out the excess water, and then put a seed and a damp cotton ball down into the finger of the glove. And then they would basically hang it in the window of their classroom, or if there's aren't windows, you could certainly do it with artificial lighting. And then it usually sprouts within a few days, of itself. It just depends. As you can see under the activity on the left, seed germination. That in Farming in a Glove, that's on our website, they're using alfalfa and a lot of the grain seeds, which sprout faster, and that's the reason why they used it. If you're going to be sprouting large seeds like corn, squash, peas, or beans, you need to use 2 moistened cotton balls, and it does take a little bit longer, maybe 2 to 3 days, for produce seeds to sprout. But basically, once they start to sprout, and the whole point of this activity too is that they don't have to add anything else. All they need to sprout is a warm temperature, some lighting, and the moistness. So, on to, I see somebody saying the signal is not that great, missing some audio. Okay, Lacey. Next slide. So here are some additional nutrition resources. Those are not the only lessons on the curriculum matrix. We have others, and I've listed them by grade range, and then also just hands-on activities for all ages. So just use this, this presentation to get to those activities. Next slide. Florida Agriculture in the Classroom is one of the programs that we're featuring. Their Farm to School program is the Florida Food Nutrition and Wellness Program. The Florida Ag in the Classroom and FNW hold teacher workshops around the state together, where Florida Ag in the Classroom just demonstrates the K-12 nutrition lesson activities. And then the Farm to School, Florida Food Nutrition and Wellness, Chef Paula talks about food and garden harvest safety and presents simple recipes that teachers can prepare in their classrooms. The 2 programs also host a statewide student recipe contest, where Florida Ag in the Classroom promotes and hosts the contest, but Chef Paula reviews the recipe submissions and assists in a taste test step after the contest. Florida Nutrition and Wellness, or Farm to School, Florida Farm to School, has a seat on Florida Ag in the Classroom's board of directors. And then Florida Agriculture in the Classroom and Florida Food Nutrition and Wellness promote each other's programs as well. So that's one way that one state partners with the Ag in the Classroom program and the Farm to School program. Next slide. Also, we have a national conference coming up where we demonstrate agriculture-related lessons, many of them nutrition-related lessons, to about 400 to 500 K through 12 classroom teachers from around the country. And it is scheduled from June 19th through the 21st in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I invite anyone to join us. I think you would learn a lot, and you can use that live link to look at the agenda and see the types of workshops we'll be offering. Next. And thank you very much. This is my contact information.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's great to hear about your organization, and it sounds like a lot of opportunities for our attendees to connect to the work happening at the national level and in their states. And as Lisa said, we'll be sharing this slide set, and you can access all those resources. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks so much.
I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Renee Page to talk about this partnership between agriculture in the classroom and farm to school in Maine.
So great. Thanks, Lacey. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. So thank you, Lisa, for that great introduction about ag in the classroom. That was super. And I really like that idea of farming in a glove. I've never seen that one. So really enjoyed that one for sure. So Lacey, you can go ahead to the next slide, please. So here in Maine, we've actually had a very strong relationship with Maine Ag in the Classroom for many years, more than 10 years now. And Maine Ag in the Classroom was formed back in 2007, just about the same time that the Maine Farm to School Network was forming, and they've really been a key partner all along the way. The way that Maine Ag in the Classroom is structured is that the organization is actually housed in our Maine Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. They host them in that space, which is great. And the program is supported by our Maine Agriculture Specialty License Plate, which you can see a sample of there on the slide. And so if you ever come to Maine or ever reside in Maine, I encourage you to procure a Maine Ag in the Classroom plate. But also one way, it's just a great thing to keep your eye out for if you're ever in our state, because they're beautiful license plates, and knowing that the money that folks pay to have these plates on their cars goes to support this program, which is fabulous. The Maine Ag in the Classroom's mission is here on the slide: to promote the understanding of agriculture and natural resources among students, educators, and the general public. And the website is also here on this slide, but you could also access it very easily via the link that Lisa provided on her slide. And I think it's worth noting at the bottom of this slide that I have both our Maine Ag in the Classroom and our Maine Farm to School Network logos. And so both of these organizations, we've received support from the national organizations just, by sharing logos. So that's one great way of how these state partnerships are benefiting from their partnership with the national organization. Next slide, please. So Maine Ag in the Classroom is a small staff of 2 people. They sometimes will host interns as well, but largely it's just this dynamo team that do a lot of work of just a team of 2. And they have, like I mentioned before, have been a part of the Maine Farm to School Network since its inception. Willie Grenier, the executive director of Maine Ag in the Classroom, was a member of the original Maine Farm to School work group that evolved into the Maine Farm to School Network, and she's also a member of our current leadership council. When the Maine Farm to School Network first formed, Maine Ag in the Classroom led an education subcommittee that created an online searchable database of agriculture curriculum, very similar to what Lisa showed you previously, with a lot of our lessons being really Maine focused. And I'm sure there's interchange with the national lessons as well, so folks can have access to even that larger database of lessons. And some other ways that Maine Ag in the Classroom really supports our Farm to School Network is that they partner closely with us to help organize and pull off our annual conferences. So this year, I stuck this year's conference information in there. We're having our conference on October 4th. So if anyone can make it to Maine, we'd love to have you join us. And really their role in helping with conference organizing beyond the nitty-gritty details, which there are always so much, is that they take the lead on the education track and really help formulate the programming for the conference, but also help us get teachers to our conference as well. And you can see the picture on the right of our most recent Maine Ag in the Classroom Teacher of the Year. And this is an award that Maine Ag in the Classroom gives out each year to an innovative teacher, or sometimes even a pair of teachers who are doing great work in the classroom. Let's see, next slide. So great. These are some other specific things that Maine Ag in the Classroom offers. So they offer an annual grant program, and these are the different categories of grants. So it could be a broader ag awareness grant, or it could be very specific to start or enhance school gardens and greenhouses. They also offer an ag leadership award, and also awards to statewide organizations. Quite often, the Maine Farm to School Network, for example, conference through this grant program, which is also supported by the agriculture license plate. The Maine Ag in the Classroom also offers a Summer Teachers Institute, which is a week-long extravaganza in the summer that is hosted somewhere around the state of Maine. It moves around each year, and it's really an in-depth week-long intensive training for teachers that really highlights a specific sector of agriculture. And it's also very, I should really point out, that it's very affordable. There are scholarships available, and again, supported by our agricultural license plate. We also have the Read Me Ag program. So ME is capitalized on purpose, obviously, Maine, right? So we have each year an author will write a book about some sector of Maine agriculture. So this year, the book was called Maple Syrup from the Sugar House. And this is a week-long event in March where volunteer readers across the state go into classrooms and read the book, and then the classroom is left with copies of the book. And it's really a great way to get volunteers out into classrooms, but also teach kids about a specific sector of Maine agriculture. And one other area that has been really helpful with Maine Ag in the Classroom is that Maine just launched a Harvest of the Month program this spring, and Maine Ag in the Classroom has been working closely with Maine Harvest of the Month to develop the support materials for the classroom for each featured product. Next slide. Great. So I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Willie Grenier. She's the Maine Ag in the Classroom Executive Director. She's also recent past president for the National Ag in the Classroom Association. And, she's really just the powerhouse behind this program in Maine. Last year, the national conference was held here in Maine and drew over 500 attendees from many states and was a huge success. And I also just want to shout out to Willie on this as well, that she's being recognized this month for the Maine Bring It Home Award because that conference was such a great success. Next slide. So just to wrap up, I would say that, Maine Ag in the Classroom has really been a critical part partner for the Maine Farm to School Network. And I'd also like to mention the Maine School Garden Network. I think both of those organizations, Maine Ag in the Classroom and Maine School Garden Network, work very closely together and really do the heavy lifting for both the agriculture education in the classroom, as well as the experiential learning that's happening in school gardens and greenhouses across our state. They are the Farm to School Network's direct connection to educators. It's great having Maine Ag in the Classroom housed at the Maine Department of Agriculture. Just their proximity to state government really helps, facilitate those relationships as well. For example, the Maine Farm to School Network has their monthly meetings right at the Maine Department of Agriculture, and we always have a representative of the department as part of our meetings. So, and I think, without Maine Ag in the Classroom, probably those relationships wouldn't be as strong as they are. We do a lot of cross promotion of each other's activities, and we also, of course, share each other's resources as well. So, and then I also just want to shout out to on the picture to the right is also another photo of Willie, and to her right, our left, is Kelsey Fortin, who is also at Maine Ag in the Classroom, and the two of them really do tremendous work to support Farm to School in Maine. Next slide, all set. Thanks, Lacey.
Thank you so much, Renee. It's really exciting to see that partnership in action and see how you're both working together to achieve your shared objectives. So we do have some time for question and answers. As you have questions either for Lisa or Renee, please feel free to put those in the question and answer box, and we will ask them to respond. So as folks are entering their questions into the question box, I've got a few questions here to get us started. The first question is for Lisa. Lisa, are you aware of how many states have a license plate program similar to Maine? Or there are other kind of programs similar to that in other states where state level Ag in the Classroom programs are receiving proceeds?
There are quite a few. I don't have an exact number, but I do know that there's probably at least a dozen states, around a dozen states that do have a specialty license plate that helps fund their programs. It is a good, steady source of funding. I know that in Florida, Agriculture in the Classroom is funded by a specialty license plate. Iowa Foundation, Agriculture Literacy Foundation, along with 4-H and FFA in that state, just launched their own, that's an agriculture license plate, and it passed a couple years ago, so theirs is in place now. Alabama has one, Virginia, quite a few of the states do. Maryland has one of the biggest, because Maryland only has a couple specialty license plates, and agriculture is one of the few. Maryland Ag Ed Foundation and their FFA programs get some funding from that. So like I said, I would say around a dozen. I could get back to you though with a more exact figure if you like.
Great, thanks, Lisa. I think it's just helpful for people to know to take a look out for that in their state when they're renewing their license plate.
Definitely.
Our next question is for Renee. Renee, in the Maine Ag in the Classroom Summer Teacher Institute, are you aware of specific farm to school focused programming within that institute?
Okay, I hope I'm interpreting the question right, but I know each year, I've never actually attended the Institute myself. It is very focused on classroom teachers is really the primary audience. But I do believe that each year, folks are introduced to the curriculum, Food, Land, and People. And then it will also be very focused on whatever the setting is they chose for the year. So this year, for example, they're going to be at the University of New England is where they'll be staying, which is right on the coast. And there will be a lot of activities for teachers to be able to observe aquaculture, for example, and probably visit some farms in that area. So it's really a week of kind of mixed, learning about curriculum and different resources for the classroom, but also for teachers to be able to go out and have their own experiential learning on a farm or at a, seaweed kelp farm or, a mussel farm or something like that. I hope that answers the question. And you can also, folks definitely visit the Maine Ag in the Classroom website. You can see the application process for the Institute and what will be featured.
Great. Thanks, Renee. That sounds exciting. I'd love to attend. The next question I think actually would be great for both of you to answer, Lisa from your national perspective and Renee from what's happening in Maine. But can you tell us who is implementing the Ag in the Classroom curriculums? Is it generally teachers doing the lesson within their classroom, or are there outside groups or organizations like the Ag in the Classroom coordinator coming in to do those? Lisa, do you want to start with the national perspective?
Would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm sorry, I didn't know if you wanted me to go first or not. And could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. Can you tell us who is doing the implementation of the Ag in the Classroom lessons and curriculum? Is it generally teachers doing that within their own classroom, or are there outside groups coming in? For instance, are the state level Ag in the Classroom coordinators able to come in to do those lessons in the classroom?
So basically, the agriculture in the classroom model for most states is to do teacher workshop trainings. So they will bring teachers in, as Renee was just talking about Maine having their summer institute, bringing teachers in for professional development training, and not just in the summer, throughout the year, many of them. And the state Ag in the Classroom usually has a couple people on staff who will demonstrate to the teachers these lessons, and then the teachers go back into the classroom and teach. Because many of our state programs are small staffs, 1 to 2 people, if that, in some cases. So we don't have the staffing or the resources to go into classrooms and do it ourselves. So we've adopted the train-the-trainer model by training teachers who then go into the classroom and present to the students. And we found that's definitely the most effective use of our resources to roll out, our materials and our programs. In addition to, the web-based lessons that we offer, we also have grant programs. We have the National Conference. We have a National Teacher Awards program. So we involve educators in other ways too, through grant funding and other sources, to bring them into our programming and show them all the resources in the national conference that we have. But yeah, we do the train-the-trainer professional development approach and not the in-classroom approach. We're just not, in many states, big enough to go into every classroom. So that's how we handle it.
And
typically.
I would just echo that is the model we have in Maine. But I would say, we do have the week-long Read Me Ag opportunity where volunteers go in and do that piece. However, just thinking about this question, I do see potential for other educators who might be going into schools to do nutrition education like SNAP-Ed or other programs to potentially partner with their state Ag in the Classroom organizations to tap into those resources.
And in some cases, some states do go into the classroom and they do direct in-classroom training, or we have a lot of mobile agriculture labs that go from school to school and have hands-on activities that teach agriculture and nutrition. So that's another way to reach directly to the students. So different states handle it differently, but most are the train-the-trainer model. Excuse me.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. And I think that's a great point, Renee, about the opportunity to leverage these partnerships with those additional organizations that already have touch points in the classroom. So another great opportunity for partnership across those different organizations. The next question, I think you could both answer as well. I'd love to get both the Maine perspective and the national perspective. Is there opportunity, or do you see happening Ag in the Classroom partners connecting to farmers and producers in the agricultural sector for either field trips, or in some circumstances, maybe procurement opportunities later down the line? Is there a relationship there connecting Ag in the Classroom and farmers, either for educational or other purposes, to schools? And Renee, do you want to start with that question?
Definitely. And you'd like me to go first on this? Yeah, definitely. In fact, most of the state agriculture in the classroom programs and the national ag in the classroom program at its national conference, farm tours are a big part of the workshops that we conduct. We like to take teachers out to the farm so they can see how different commodities are produced. In Arkansas, for example, in June, we're going to be going out and learning about rice production and processing and marketing, because rice is such a big commodity in Arkansas. We'll also learn about, live bass production and other things, but farm visits are part of those teacher workshops, and making those personal connections with those farmers does allow for future partnerships on the procurement side for sure, because farmers are certainly interested in selling their products, and I know have an interest in the local farm approach. So it's a great way to make those introductions too. So I can definitely see that happening. I'm sure it has.
Yep, I would agree with that at the state level. That's definitely, just part of the whole approach to farm to school, obviously, is making those connections. I think as we build our Harvest of the Month program and continue to develop procurement connections, really identifying those farms and food producers that are amenable to hosting farm visits is definitely something we will continue to keep our eye on and promote, because I know I'm just stating the obvious by saying that the agriculture in the classroom component is such a big piece of procurement success. So we want to figure out all the different ways we can make those connections, whether it's in the classroom or on the farm.
Great.
Yes, and let me add to that too, Lacey. Virtual farm tours are becoming big. A lot of our states, because it's so hard for students to go on field trips anymore with school budgets being cut, virtual farm visits have become really popular in many of our states. And in fact, we've had teachers in New York, for example, farm chat with an Iowa soybean and corn grower on a regular basis, because once the students establish a relationship, they want to stay in touch with the farmer to find out how the season goes and the good things and the bad things, whatever obstacles he faced, that sort of thing. So they've developed a very personal relationship there. So basically, virtual farm chats is another way that we are trying to connect the farmer to the classroom and classroom students to the farmers to really drive home that message that food comes from the farm and not from the store. So that's another way to build those relationships with technology.
Thank you, Lisa. It's really exciting to hear about that innovation to help develop those long-term relationships and connections between students and agricultural producers in their community.
Can I also, one more thing, on our website, I would invite you also those VR viewers, those virtual reality viewers that people see, where you can go and look at a video in 3D. We have a 360-degree videos of different types of farms on our website. And with one of those VR viewers, students or teachers, whoever goes to our website, can view, basically an egg farm and different production, different types of commodities being produced and harvested, which is pretty cool too. So that's another new approach that we're trying, and that's been very successful for our group as well. So
great, thanks, Lisa. And we'll be sure in the follow-up email that we'll include those links to your website and direction to those resources.
Great, thank you.
Well, those are all the questions that we currently have. I want to extend a huge thank you to Lisa and Renee for sharing more about these national and state level opportunities for partnerships. As I mentioned, you'll be receiving a follow-up email with both the link to this recording as well as the links and resources and websites that Lisa and Renee have mentioned today to learn more about the work happening both at the national and state level in Maine. So a huge thank you to Lisa and Renee, and thanks to all of you for spending your hour with us. Please join us for our next Trending Topics webinars coming up in June, and learn more about the work that we're doing at National Farm to School Network at www.farmtoschool.org. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next webinar.